hunting,
fishing,
cooking,
camping,
conservation,
travel,
gardening,
photography, family.
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 This is the Outdoor Rules Podcast. Hi, everybody. It's Mike. Welcome to the podcast. I recently had the opportunity to sit down with an old friend, and we had what I think is an amazing conversation. There's something in this conversation for everybody. I think there's some hunting stories, but this episode is really about so much more than hunting. And we talked for quite a while, so we decided to turn this into a two-part episode. This will be part one, and then come back next week for part two. And I just got to say that part two takes a turn in this story that is really worth your time to listen to. So with that, we'll jump right into it. Joe, say hi.
Hello.
So this is Joe Skorupski that's on today. Joe and I have been friends, I don't know, how long, Joe, 20 years?
Yeah, I was trying to do the math. I think I met you in 2006, but we have some prior ties as well.
Yeah. It goes a long way back. And we will get into all these connections, but the shortest version of it from my standpoint is that Joe and I graduated from the same university, from Mansfield University of Pennsylvania. Go Mounties. But we graduated, 5 years apart, Joe?
Yes, I think so. I graduated in 2008 from Mansfield.
Yeah, so 6 years apart. I graduated in 2002. So we didn't know each other. We didn't overlap there. But through Yellowstone, common connection with lots of podcast guests, Joe and I met. So we had a mutual friend that was working for me in the park, who was Derek Rupert, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. And then through Derek, I guess kind of take it from there, Joe. You came for a visit, and that was when we first met, right?
Yeah. So I was working in Eastern Oregon for the Forest Service, and it was my sophomore year. So that was 2006. So yeah, I had older friends, Rupert being one of them, and he was working for you in Yellowstone that summer. So yeah, I had a long stint. We worked 8 days on, 6 days off. So always doing something fun with Ferg and Rupert on those weekends. I think we met up 3 times during that, and one of those was meeting in Yellowstone and fishing over the 4th.
Yeah.
So I think we met when we were at the. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, because I was just looking at pictures of us fishing on the Lamar on 4th of July.
I love it.
2006.
When I think of the 4th of July, I think about fishing on the Lamar, and I often specifically think about that year with you guys. So, Joe, for our audience, I think that I am the dead center, middle of the road fly fisherman. Like, I'm better than somebody that's just picked up a fly rod, but I'm not good enough at fly fishing for somebody that has as much experience as I have doing it. So, when I go out with other people, I kind of feel like, there's this group of people that's, clearly doesn't have as much experience as I do and maybe struggles even a little bit more than I do. And then there's this group of people that are like, oh, wow, that's a legitimate fly fisherman. That's somebody that really knows what they're doing. And Joe, from day one, it was clear to me that you were in that latter group. You grew up fly fishing or spent a lot of time fly fishing when you were young?
I did. Yeah, I have great memories of. I started fly. I grew up in Pennsylvania as well, in southeast part, and we had some great rivers. And I grew up on the river, Schuylkill River, and yeah, as a kid, I would always once I learned about fly fishing, I started working at a fly shop, and I had a little Honda 110 that I would take out, the good old days of no cell phones or whatnot. And I was told I had to be home by dark, which I rarely made in time. So I would ride down the railroad tracks, illegally
This is
and
a
fish the river by myself.
there's some theme here, Joe, in our time together, which is that if Joe went fishing and then he told you he was going to be somewhere at some certain time, the reliability of Joe getting there was inversely proportional to the quality of the fishing. So
Oh,
if there
absolutely.
was very good fishing, Joe was almost definitely going to be late.
I lost a lot of responsibilities by showing up late by my mom. So yeah, good times, and it never broke me. So I'm proud of that.
you yeah, we'll get into that too, Joe, but I often think of you as somebody with an indomitable spirit. So
Yeah. So yeah, when I was a kid, I used to fish, man, 4 days a week on the Schuylkill River, riding my dirt bike. Great, great memories by myself. So
yeah.
yeah, that's where it started. I would say I was 14 when I started that, I believe. So
Yeah,
yeah.
and man, I mean, watching you do things like drag streamers in the Yellowstone River, and Joe and I spent a lot of time sort of after this initial meeting together, fishing together. But you have an ability to do things with a fly rod where if I try to drag streamers the way you do, I'm just hung up like 94% of the time, and then I also miss 90% of the bites that I actually do get because I can't tell the difference between a big fish and the bottom when I get that bite. But man,
Well,
you really
I get
are.
lucky.
No, that's not true. You're one of the better fly fishermen that I've ever fished around, and it's always fun to watch somebody like you do it because it's a whole different thing than watching somebody like me doing it. But um,
Oh, thank you.
yeah. So then from that initial meeting, kind of describe that interim period 2006 on the path that you took.
Yeah. So I think that was honestly the year that I kind of decided I was going home, finishing my degree, and I was moving out west, and I wasn't going to come back. Like that was like vivid memories of, hanging out on Mill Creek with you and Todd Cole and meeting both of you. And I was like, this is the life I want to live. So I went home, I finished summer classes at Mansfield, and I graduated in '08 and immediately got a job. I applied for tons of jobs, and um, one one being the Yellowstone job, and I got it right away, accepted it. I was ecstatic, and I have actually really good memory of being at work and Jason Burkhart calling me and for the Cody technician job, and I turned it down to stay in Yellowstone. So kind of a interesting path that we can get
Yeah.
to as well. But so I finished my undergraduate, immediately went to Yellowstone for 6 months, and I met a woman that was willing to follow me around in that last couple months of school in Mansfield. And I went to Yellowstone and was honest and said, I'm starting grad school in Texas. And she followed me. So I immediately ran home. We moved to Texas, and I started a graduate project in Yellowstone. And I guess that was '09.
Yeah.
So
We're all still a little bit confused about exactly how you found Erin and why she's put up with you for so long, but
yeah, I'm good at tricking women. I don't know.
I don't I don't I mean, gosh, your wife is a beautiful soul and you are lucky. You're a lucky man to
Oh
have
yeah.
her. I mean,
Yep.
and I speak as a fellow incredibly lucky man to have found a woman that not only puts up with me but that we get along so well. So shout out
Yep.
to Aaron for sure
Yeah,
for
for sure.
that. Yeah. So the summer that you were in Yellowstone that you talked about there, were you on the water quality crew that summer?
I was, yeah. So I lived at Lake, worked for Jeff, and then I often went out with Brian as well. I had more of I liked water quality. I enjoyed the macroinvertebrate part of it, which
Yeah,
ended up being my master's work. And, I like that attention to detail. But I really, in the long term, I wanted to be a fish biologist. That was
right.
my,
And that
my dream job. So,
what you're mentioning there in Yellowstone, the fisheries program is kind of broken up. At least it was. I haven't worked there in a long time now, but it was broken up kind of into three main components, which were the by far the biggest crew worked on Yellowstone Lake in the summertime, and I think we talked a little bit in the Ben Goldfarb episode about the lake trout uh, project there, trying to control non-native lake trout, and a whole bunch of folks focused on that project. And then there was another group that I led for a little while that did native fish restoration, kind of in all across around the park, everywhere but in the Yellowstone Lake Basin. Um,
mhm.
and the lake trout crew was stationed at Lake in the summer. So when we say lake, that's actually kind of the place name, the quote unquote town in the park, developed area is called Lake. Uh, and then the crew that I worked with, we stayed in Mammoth, park headquarters up in the north central part of the park. And then there was a third group, which was a water quality group that was led by Jeff Arnold at the time. And you guys were also based out of Lake during the summer.
Yep.
And then,
So yeah, I had a lot of crossover, which was great. I mean, that was kind of the point of doing technician work, was getting exposure to everything. So,
yeah.
and I got it.
And your master's work, you mentioned you worked with macroinvertebrates. So again, if anybody's not familiar, it's kind of a fisheries jargon term or science jargon term. You're talking about basically aquatic bugs, the ones that are big enough that you can see.
Correct. Yeah.
And what was that master's work, and where was it?
Yeah. So, long story short, when I moved to Texas, I had a funding project at the DFW airport looking at sensitive fishes, and showed up in first lab meeting. I quickly learned that my advisor spent all that money before I showed up. So I immediately called you guys and just kind of inquiring about what do I do. I was kind of panicking, and Todd threw out, this potential. He actually threw out like 4 potential projects, some that were further down the pipe, and he said, "Yeah, you can. We'd love to have someone analyze this data, come back and do some more comprehensive sampling for Specimen Creek Rotenome project for West Slope cutthroat trout, which I worked on that summer of '08, so I was familiar with it.
Yep.
I knew Jeff well, I knew you well, Todd. So yeah, I felt, I wrote a scope of work, got funding through Yellowstone Park Foundation, which I think was Yellowstone Forever then, or I can't remember.
It is
They switched
now.
names, I believe.
Yeah, it was the
Yeah.
Park Foundation then. Now it's Yellowstone Forever.
Yeah. So Todd was really good at, we basically funneled money through MSU to University of North Texas to where I could stay because I was broke from moving. So I really couldn't move to Bozeman at that point. And it wasn't really worth the transfer and everything like that. So my wife had or at the time, girlfriend already had a good job a good job for us at the moment, I think we were clearing like 20 grand a year, something like that, the good old days.
Crazy when you think back on that, isn't it?
It really is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then I basically received that funding, and then Todd mentioned it wasn't enough funding to round out a master's. So I contacted Carter Cruz, and Carter was excited to kind of hand me over a data set as well for Cherry Creek and Comanche Creek and Costilla Creek.
Yep.
So small world it's where you work often now, and which I think is pretty cool. So yeah, I got to analyze all that data across different ecoregions, and ended up being a pretty big project that I was fortunate to finish in 2.5 years. So those summers of 09, 10, and then 11, I stayed on with Turner Enterprises and the foundation so that I could pay bills and get more experience, and worked for Brad Shepard and lived with Mike and Caitlin for a summer in the Valley. Yeah.
Yeah, and just to catch the listeners up on a few things there, you mentioned Turner Enterprises. That's Ted Turner, who a lot of people know owns tons and tons of ranch land across the West, and particularly he owns a real big tract right outside of Bozeman on Cherry Creek, but then he also owns a huge tract here, mostly in New Mexico, right on the Colorado border, the Vermejo Park Ranch, and the Vermejo Park Ranch is home to some of those creeks Joe mentioned, and including in the Costilla Creek Basin, and Costilla Creek flows down onto the Forest Service, and that is somewhere that I've worked quite a bit here in New Mexico. But it was interesting when I moved down here. I kind of forgotten about that part of your project, and then I moved down here and I started talking to people, and I'm like, well, yeah, we know Joe Skorupski. Like he worked down here. Like, oh yeah, forgot about that. It's this fisheries world, the biology world is such a crazy small world. It's hard to get away from anything really. And
very true.
yeah, and then you mentioned Caitlin and I when we first got married. Well, I don't even know that we were married yet. It might have been the summer before we were married that you lived with us, right?
Yeah, I think so. It was 11.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what? Because I got married that year too. But did you get married in 12? I can't even remember.
Yeah, we did. Don't come on,
Yeah.
Joe. Don't quiz me on the podcast about my anniversary date. You're gonna get me in trouble here. No, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, so
I'm
I
pretty
actually
sure
ended
I've
up
been
getting married before you.
Oh yeah, right. Well, you got married that summer, didn't you?
Yeah, in September. Yeah, it was like a whirlwind. I was living in, the Bozeman, Livingston area. Aaron was still back at Texas. Yeah, and we flew back to Pennsylvania on my family farm and got married and immediately separated again. And then she went back to Texas. I went back to Bozeman, and then that was in September, and then shortly after that, I ended up getting a job in Utah as a
Right.
fish biologist.
Do you remember the reason that I remembered that it was the summer before Caitlin and I got married is because do you remember Caitlin's dad came out to visit?
I do.
And we
Yeah,
fished together, and I was trying to get him alone in a car so I could ask him to marry Caitlin.
I do remember that. Yeah, you were.
And whatever happened, you and Caitlin were like trying to be helpful, and we were shuttling vehicles around one day fishing, and it was like a
Yeah, and you
boat trailer.
whispered in my ear. You're like, just go with Caitlin. I need to ask your dad.
And I remember,
like,
like being so frustrated, and Caitlin being like, "What is wrong with you?"
yep.
And it was because I
I do
was
remember
trying to
that.
get Tim alone. Anyway,
Yep.
so yeah, and that was such a good summer because where we lived there was 200 yards from the river, from the Yellowstone River, and you could just walk down and fish anytime you wanted. And such a special place to live. And
still mad at you for selling my house.
yeah, well, I'm a little bit mad at myself, honestly, Joe. It would be worth a lot more now than it was when I sold it. That's for sure.
Yep.
Oh well. So then from there you moved to Utah.
Yeah, I got an endangered species biologist job. So I worked with the 4 endangereds down in Vernal, Utah. Very, very different than the Valley, Yellowstone. Yeah, I have a formidable memory of popping over into the dry desert of Vernal, and I was like, what did I just do? So, but it was a great experience. I learned a lot in that job, and yeah, worked with endangered species. And yeah, again, it was just one of those jobs where it wasn't quite exactly what I wanted yet. It was very detached from public participation because it's endangered species stuff, and you don't really interact with the public nearly as much as I wanted to. You're not really managing the resource for them. It's much more of trying to make sure the species doesn't blink out. So
Yeah, which is,
I worked there for.
Go ahead, sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I worked there for 2.5 years, I believe.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's it's such a noble cause and it's such a worthwhile effort, but it is, it is one of those kind of branches of the field where if, if that's what you want to do, if you want to work on straight up, native species, endangered species conservation, it's that's a great part of the field, but like you're saying, if you want to manage fish for the public, if you're more interested in the recreational angling side of things, it is pretty far away from that.
mm-hmm. But great experience. Learned how to row big water, jet boat, big water. It was sometimes I'm like, man, I can't believe I did that stuff at 25, running a 8-person crew.
Right.
So yeah, I learned a lot from that. Had a lot of responsibilities, big budget that I managed, and yeah, it was great years.
Yeah,
I got to experience.
I feel the same way. I look back on some of the things I did, early in my time in Yellowstone, and I'm like, I cannot believe that they let me do that.
Yeah, for sure.
I can't believe that I was running a crew that was doing those native fish restoration projects, and I barely knew what I was doing myself. But
yep,
I guess that's how you
learn.
No one
died though.
no one died. Yeah, there were a few sketchy moments here and there, but we made it.
Yeah. Yes, for sure.
Yeah, and so how'd you end up where you are now in Cody?
Yeah, so shortly after that, we kind of decided, I always had an affinity to go back to the Yellowstone area. I mean, it's where I cut my teeth. I had great memories, and I love the area, and always imagined that we'd live in the Bozeman area, which didn't come to fruition, and I'm kind of grateful that it didn't at this stage of looking at what Bozeman is. But anyway, shortly after that, I applied for a job in Wyoming and Green River, and again, I ended up getting the job, and we moved to Green River, and it was another great place to work. I mean, I managed Flaming Gorge and kokanee and lake trout and lots of native species work, but it was a harder job to have a family for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I accidentally got my wife pregnant, so I
sorry, Josie.
After that,
if Josie's listening to this in 30 years, he didn't mean that.
No, we wanted a family for sure, and it was, it was a great experience to have in Green River. But I remember that first summer she was born, and I was gone for like 12 weeks in the summertime and barely saw my family. And I was like, maybe this isn't quite the avenue that I need to go down. And shortly after that, Cody opened as a lateral, and I applied. So I was there for 2 years in Green River, and it was, man, there's some things that I really love in Green River, but it was hard to leave.
I like Green River
raising
a lot.
Family I do too. It's got a lot to offer. The public land access is ridiculous there.
Yeah.
And it's a very, very landlocked town. And I remember, we used to walk out of our house and we'd be on BLM in 3 minutes.
Right.
It was unbelievable.
It's got a lot to offer for people like us that really do little other than thinking about hunting and fishing, but not necessarily a lot to offer in some other ways.
Yep. So I actually still go down there and hunt and fish a little bit. I do really enjoy that area a lot. But Cody was a great community and still is for us. And so I think in 2016 we moved to Cody, had one kiddo, and it was a good move in the long run. I'm glad we did it, but a hard one. But so now I've been here since 2016. I think it's the longest place I've lived since growing up. So definitely nice to be settled into a community and yeah, have good friends and have that longer connection with the resource. I do see the value in that of managing something for gosh, it's going on 9 years, 10 years I've been there. So
Yeah. Yeah, and for anybody that doesn't know, I mean, Cody's how far out of the east entrance of Yellowstone is Cody?
it's 50 miles,
Yeah.
so it's not far really. I mean, we often go do day trips into the park and fish the lake or the river
Right.
without any trouble. I think it's 2 hours to Fishing Bridge,
Yeah. Yeah, and
so not bad.
Cody's such a cool western town and has retained some of that character, and there's awesome stuff there like the Buffalo Bill Museum, right? I mean the Winchester, what is that complex
Oh
called?
yeah, it's I always call it the gun room. I can't remember the exact exhibit, but it's like the largest gun collection I think in the U.S. I believe.
Yeah.
But it's a great resource to have there for kids, and I like walking around the museum for sure. But
Yeah,
yeah,
because
Cody's nicely
there's a whole
situated.
like Western art part of it. Is there a Native American art museum there? Or am I thinking of Jackson?
Yeah, there's a lot of art in that, which I don't even know if I've walked through every little piece of it, even at this stage.
Yeah,
But it's a natural history museum, so there's lots of stuffed animals and
right. Yeah,
different
there.
things to look at through the ecosystem of the greater Yellowstone area.
Right. I mean the Winchester part of it, the gun part of it is really cool for somebody with my interest, but that museum complex is so much more than just that
hmm
kind
Yeah,
of.
it's pretty incredible.
Yeah. Cody's a really cool place to live and I mean close to a lot of stuff too. I mean not all that far from the Montana border and close to Yellowstone like we were saying and all the other stuff. So, yeah. And since you've been there, I mean, I mentioned you and fly fishing, um, and there's a lot of that to do in that part of the world too, right?
hmm Yeah, we have a lot of floatable rivers. We have the North Fork of the Shoshone, South Fork. We have below Buffalo Bill Dam, which is just the main Shoshone. I think we have six floatable rivers. We have the Clark's Fork, uh, and then we have the Bighorn River,
Hmm.
which through Thermopolis. And so, yeah, it's extremely dynamic. And what I enjoy about living there is that it goes from, if you get to the Graybull area, I think it's like 3,000 feet elevation.
Hmm.
It's desert, and prairie fishes, and then you can scale all the way up until looking at, the Yellowstone Mountains, Absaroka Mountains, or the Bighorn Mountains, and alpine lakes, small streams. It's got it all in terms of recreation and resources.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty nice place to live, but uh, I don't recommend it. I don't want any drilling anymore. So
Don't move to Cody. It's horrible there.
yeah, don't move to Cody. Yeah, especially if you're a retired person.
Yeah. No,
But yeah, it's good to our family for sure.
where I was going with that is that the fact that you're a much better fly fisherman than me doesn't really bother me. You grew up doing it, and it's not that important to me. What I do find really annoying about you, Joe, is that you're also a much better Western big game hunter than I am, and I had a substantial head start on you in that department, and I think you're also you're just kind of better than me in every part of it. I think you probably have killed more and bigger elk, more and bigger deer, more and bigger antelope. Um, how did you like? What are your kind of early experiences with Western big game hunting, and what really drove you to that?
Yeah, I would tag along a little bit with folks, early on, especially on like the Yellowstone area, and I got a chance to be there. I mean, we hunted together mule deer, and I think you had a rifle general tag, and yeah, it was just so different than back east. And I am not a sit and wait type of person. I like moving. So that was a definite advantage for me is
Yeah.
I don't have the patience to sit in a tree stand. I mean, I think I shot a couple whitetails growing up, but I did not have the ability to sit there and wait and pattern bucks. That was not my style at all. So when I moved out here in that first mule deer hunt, I remember, I think we were at Daly Lake,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Probably.
I remember seeing mule deer and being like, so all I have to do is just be able to hike over there and I can kill one of those things. I can do that. So that's really where it was. It was just, I liked moving and yeah, it was really fun. So then I started, Utah was a pretty similar to New Mexico. It's a really tough place to get tags, but you could always get a general archery tag or a general rifle tag there. So I was drawn more to archery hunting and it was a lot of fun. And it kind of just built from there of just, I chased elk around the woods with a bow for 2 years, never killed one. And then, yeah, Wyoming is very, very different in terms of its structure, which I really appreciate. It does have limited quota tags, but a lot of general
Mm-hmm.
opportunity for residents. And yeah, I mean, since living there, I could always have the opportunity to kill elk and general hunt mule deer. And yeah, it's what I truly love to do there. So,
Yeah.
I always thought I'd angle more, but yeah, as the years went on, I definitely hunt a lot more than I fish.
Right. I don't think that there's any secret. I mean, I really do think that there are some people that are just really, really good hunters, and it doesn't really matter the situation that much. There's just folks that get it done, and I mean, I put you in that category. I think of your buddy Derek Miller, who we'll talk about a little bit here, kind of the same way. But I think Western big game hunting, there's just there's not that big of a secret beyond working hard at it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Especially elk. Yeah,
yeah,
I would say elk or if you hike enough, you'll kill an elk. That's the way
right.
I view it.
Yeah, it's
You
just
bump into them and you can kill one.
and I'm just too lazy to be good at it. I mean, I think that's what it boils down to. Like sometimes I'm willing to work that hard and sometimes I'm not. And yeah, like you say, if you just keep moving and keep glassing and keep going farther and farther from the road and keep getting into new country, eventually you'll turn them up. And that's like 90% of it is turning them up. I mean, once you found them, it's not usually all that hard to get there and get a shot.
Yeah, yeah. I think where most people they hesitate is the pack out. Like, well, how am I going to get this thing out of here? And I just never really had that in my head. I was like, I'll figure it out.
Yeah, no, Joe,
So
that's not your style, is to worry about those kind of problems before they
no,
before you're standing over the elk. Right?
yep. And
Right.
I'm 6 miles from a road.
That's sort of the same thing as the fishing thing. It's like it's not really my concern about how I'm going to get to that thing I'm supposed to be at 6 p.m. and it's 5:45 and I'm still standing in the river. Well, worry about that when I get back to the car.
Oh yeah, I was late to my own wedding rehearsal, so for that reason. So
Um, there there were two things I wanted to talk specifically about hunting with you. Um, one of which was a hunt that we shared a couple years ago in Montana for pheasants, because not only do we both hunt big game, but we both really like bird hunting. You're really into it, right?
yeah, as the years went on, I really did it a lot more. Growing up, it was stock birds, and that was kind of it in
Right.
Pennsylvania. And so I would do it, and I really enjoyed it. But it was always our traditional Thanksgiving day after Thanksgiving bird hunt that we would do, and for stock birds. But living out here, it's yeah. I mean, you can hunt from September 1 to almost end of January in a lot of states, and I really enjoy that part of it. And I think that's the thing I really enjoy about living out west is just that I can find appreciation in in any sort of environment. It just depends on the time of year. Like you won't catch me dead in the basin in summertime when rattlesnakes are out and it's 105 degrees, but come the winter time, it's one of my favorite places to be looking for birds. So
Yeah.
so
The
yeah, so
Go ahead.
go ahead. I was just going to say, but we don't have the pheasant populations that Montana does, so that's always an attraction for me.
Right. And your buddy Derek lives he lived in Lewistown for a
Hmm.
while, and now he's in Great Falls, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And we all met up, couple of us, including you and Nate Weesey, who we'll be hearing from on the podcast soon as the Norway episodes start, because he's going to be in Norway. I think it was you and Derek, Nate, uh, Tim, GT, and I, right? Five of us, I think,
Yep.
that
Yep.
year.
Yeah.
And as we were looking at the weather for that, now, you and Cody, it takes you 4 hours to get up there or something?
Yeah. It's three. It's only three and a half. It's pretty quick.
It For us, leaving from Santa Fe, it's like 16 hours. So it's like a big investment. And GT and I are looking at this drive, and we're looking at the weather, and he's like, Mike, it's going to snow. And I'm like, oh, that's the best thing that could possibly happen. And I'm like, he's like, it's going to get really cold and snow. And I'm like, that's even better. That's going to freeze up all the cattail marshes, and we'll be able to hunt everywhere, because that's one of the things we do there is beat through thick cattails trying to find those birds. And we got up there, and do you remember how much it snowed, Joe?
It was too much of a good thing. That's what I remember. The first couple of days, it was warm and it was
Yeah, I think
hard
the first
getting
full
in the
day,
birds, but we did.
right? The first full day was like, mild temps, and things weren't quite frozen up the way we wanted. And it was like, oh, this is going to be great. It's going to get cold and start snowing. And golly, I mean, it was hard to know how much it actually snowed, because it was also like blizzard wind conditions.
Hmm.
So it just like immediately drifted everywhere. and, and Derek took us to one of his spots, because I've been fortunate to become friends with a landowner up there, and so we've got a reasonably big place that's reasonably good, but Derek knows a ton of places around, and he took us to one of his spots, and it was kind of in a big draw, right? Like a big,
Yeah, it was a creek. I think it was a creek bottom, right?
well, it was hard to tell. it was hard. It was
Yeah.
hard to tell what was down there, because I mean, we literally got in that thing, and there were places where the snow was like over my belly button.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. It was so drifted. I remember being pretty horrible.
yeah, and it was still windy, and it was still like
Yeah.
0 or something. I just I just remember your dog. You still have Grayling, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. He's a Boykin Spaniel,
Yeah. So short-legged, dark chocolate spaniel. Yep.
right? And I just remember we got him in there in that draw, and it was like all he could do to follow you, right?
Yeah. Yeah. He bounced through a little bit of it, and then he was just like, "Okay, I'm at your feet."
And then at one point
I
I
almost
saw him
lost him a couple times.
well, he was just going. He was just climbing out of there. He was just done with it.
Hmm. Yeah.
It was like,
That's right. Yeah, because Derek was up on the rim, and he was like, "I'm leaving. I'm going up by Derek."
yeah, I
Like
just
where
remember
it's
watching you go
shallower
like
snow.
across that side hill, like low on that side hill, and the dog was just like, he was just headed out of that draw. He's just like, I'm done with this. No
Yep.
more. Oh man, I have never worked harder to shoot a rooster than we did on that trip, and I think we did end up getting a couple But man, that was about as hard as it gets, I think, for pheasant hunting. If it was any harder, I think I would have quit myself.
Yeah, I don't do that anymore. I wait for the storm to pass.
Yeah. It's
Well, you
tough.
got to learn that stuff.
Well, yeah, and it's tough when you got a window. You gotta go
Yeah,
when you have
exactly.
time to
We all
hunt.
traveled. Yeah.
But the bigger one that I wanted to talk about was you and Derek and another mutual friend of ours, Brian Ferguson. You guys went to Alaska, right?
Yes.
Talk about
A couple
that
years ago.
for a minute. Talk about how that hunt came to be and then kind of what it was.
Yeah, I think it was, it was those guys were fortunate. Both of them worked in Alaska, leading up to a lot of this stuff or this trip. And I think we started planning it. I don't even think I had my second kid yet. It was a 5-year plan basically, because you know, it's expensive and we knew it. So we kind of made a plan of a DIY drop float hunt is kind of what we wanted. And, just to kind of experience as much of Alaska as we possibly could. And, it's kind of where we settled. You can do drop caribou hunts where you're dropped in the tundra or a lake or just a straight float hunt, a big river. And we kind of decided to try to get as much done as we could, the full experience. So we settled on a drop hunt into a lake, which was cool. And then we hunted there for a while. And then the idea was then we'd float out and hunt our way out in fairly small rafts. So, gosh, I think we started planning that in 2018 and we did it in 21, 22, something like that. I can't remember what year we did it at this point, but yeah, so that was still to this day, it's probably one of my most enjoyable, hardest hunts I've ever done for a couple different reasons that I
And
can get into for sure. But
yeah, and so what you're talking about is you're basically what you guys did was hired a quote unquote outfitter who helped organize your gear, right? And
yeah, the raft. We rented the rafts from them,
right.
and then they're commercially licensed to drop in this area, basically. Now
And
there's
so
certainly scalpers all across Alaska, but
that's take you out with a float plane or with a bush plane and drop you
yep,
off somewhere.
They dropped us with a Super Cub float plane, and then they picked us up with a larger float plane. It was supposed to be a different plane, but I can get into the the full experience as well with that. So yeah, it was a drop with a little puddle jumper. Took 2 trips to get us in, and then yeah, we stayed at the lake for a little bit, and then the idea was then to float down slowly and hunt our way out.
Right. So they're picking you up
But for both
at a
caribou
spot
and
down the
moose,
river.
correct. Yeah, it was supposed to be oh potentially 25 miles, but that's the thing about Alaska, and it's pretty dynamic and nothing set in stone getting in and out. That's the one thing that I learned with that is patience is pretty important, especially dealing with Alaskans. They're just kind of like, well, we'll figure it out. We might be delayed a couple days, but patience is certainly key on those
We'll get
hunts.
to you when we get to you.
Yeah, which was a little nerve wracking, but
Right. And then so
we did it.
the hunting itself, you're kind of you're you're hunting moose and caribou, and for moose, were you kind of doing the same thing for both? Just try to find a high spot and glass, or were you calling?
Yeah, so we got dropped at the lake, and it was a known migration area for caribou. I mean, there's migrations all over the place up there, but this was one where it was kind of the upper end of the migration. So we were dropped in the Alpine, and so that was pretty cool. So we got to hunt in the Alpine for a couple days. So big, wide, expansive country, peaks in the background, really pretty cool. And the caribou were we we were very fortunate that we hit the migration absolutely perfect for the caribou hunt.
Mm-hmm.
But there are moose that hang out in the alpine as well. And so we would call from basically camp and hike around a little bit. And uh, so that's what we did. And we did see moose up there. But the caribou hunt was pretty special. After really recapping on the whole experience, it was pretty remarkable. But
Yeah, I mean, you guys, you guys shot the nicest caribou that I've like ever seen.
yeah, I don't think we quite realized what we accomplished until we got out. And I mean, we knew they were big caribou, but I didn't quite grasp it until talking to the biologist up there that Derek knows mutually through work. He kind of explained how fortunate we really were to hit it that well. So yeah, I mean the first day, and I mean this trip I would call it. We got the full experience. I would say the good, the bad, the ugly of an Alaskan moose hunt,
Mm-hmm.
caribou hunt. We started in uh, Brian and I went in first, and then we immediately got a message from Derek saying that he hurt his back throwing the boat into the plane area, the loading area,
Uh-huh.
and wasn't sure if he was going to make it. And so that was extremely nerve wracking. We're like, you know, is our friend going to make it in here? And he did.
Right.
And he was extremely in extreme pain. So we ended up hanging at the lake as long as we possibly could. I think we stayed there for, it's supposed to be a 10-day in and out
Mm-hmm.
hunt with, or 11 days with flights. And you can't hunt on the day you fly, obviously, in Alaska. But
Right.
so we hung at the lake, I think, for 2 or 3 extra days, if my memory is correct. I mean, we tried to give Derek as much time as possible to heal and try to let his back calm down. So he didn't even get to hunt in the beginning part of it. So we were kind of in a little bit of scramble mode at the beginning, and Brian ended up shooting his bull on the first day, this caribou
Mm-hmm.
that we could hunt. And, it was a pretty big hike. I mean, we went across the river, realized really quick that this river is not what it was actually supposed to be a creek. The creek, quote unquote, was a lot bigger than we anticipated. And that's one of the things, is just going with the flow up there is really important. And we were like, okay, well, the guy said we could cross this thing like anywhere. And we found one spot to cross it. I attempted another one the day after, and I taught my waders
Oh
really
man.
fast, which was not fun. Um, so yeah, Brian ended up killing his bull, which is a great bull, like really representative. I hate even talking about score, but it was just like that very, very nice caribou. Like it had a little bit of everything. It was like what you kind of like really wanted to go for.
Right.
They're very similar to elk and like score wise. And it was
Right.
like it'd be like shooting like a 320 kind of bull, like just a beautiful 6 point,
Right.
kind of thing. But if you're looking in comparison, so just a really great bull that we were super excited about. So then we packed the whole thing out, got back to Derek, and we kind of just hung at camp and called, and ended up seeing some moose and wolverine. And I ended up, I think it was the next day, I went after a caribou that I thought was pretty special, and it was. And I could not get close enough in the tundra. I just
Mm-hmm.
bumped them, and I ended up hiking back pretty close to dark by myself, and that's when I taught my waders, and I was really cold, and got back to camp, called in this like 50, I think looking at the video now, it's probably a 55-inch bull, which is totally legal. And it was my day to shoot. And I ended up passing on this bull that was basically in camp. And in the moment, it just didn't feel right. I was cold, and Derek was crippled. And I know Brian and I could have handled it by ourselves, but it was kind of like day two, and we have 8 days. And
It's I think that's one of the interesting things about hunting is how much the situation affects your thinking about what the right thing to do is, right?
Absolutely.
Like
Yeah.
there's just, I mean, that's exactly. I mean, I totally get what you're talking about. It's just like I came all this way, to hunt this thing, and I might never get back here, but there's
Hmm.
something about this moment that doesn't feel right. Like this just
Yeah. And
feels
that
like a
was,
decision I should not make right now.
yep. And, Brian and I talked about it a lot, and like we all had the same. So Brian and I had moose tags. Derek only had a caribou tag.
Hmm.
Killing 3 moose is not realistic. Looking at it now, killing 2 is almost unrealistic.
Right.
And Brian and I were not like, I wanted to kill a moose. Brian wanted to kill a moose, but we didn't care who killed the moose. It
Yeah.
didn't matter to us. So, I mean, the horns are being hung in one of our houses, but at the end of the day, we just wanted that experience of moose hunting, and we always plan to go back and are planning to go back. But
Yeah. Well, and you
so
can't. I
really,
mean,
we were alternating days.
you can't do that by yourself, right? Like I mean, it's virtually
No.
impossible, and I wouldn't want to anyway. But my point being, just it's a team sport. And
Hmm.
and like, yeah, you're the team member that pulls the trigger. Okay, big deal. You can't
Yep.
be there without the rest of the team. So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
it's a little bit like it doesn't. It's just almost immaterial who pulls the trigger. I mean,
Yeah.
unless you miss. but
Correct. Yeah. Then it hurts. But
but
so yeah, we didn't have that deep, like, I gotta be the one to pull the trigger.
right, exactly.
That's the one thing about going on these trips is find people you drive with really well,
Yeah.
because
Well,
no
because
matter what, at the end of 2 weeks, you will grind on each other.
yeah. Well, and if you go out there, if you're out there, if you're doing something like that with somebody who's really there for themselves to the degree that it's that important to them that they're the one that pulls the trigger, that's not the person you want to be on that trip with.
No, definitely not.
Right.
And I've had that experience, and I don't like it.
Yeah. No,
I don't hunt with them anymore.
right, exactly. I have too. So you got day one, you got Brian got a caribou. Day two, you
Hmm.
filled up your waders and didn't shoot a moose.
Right.
Right.
Great experience, though. I mean, we called it in from a long ways away. It was unbelievable calling. I mean, I think we saw that thing. It had to be pushing a mile, and those guys can correct me in the end. But I think it was about a mile. We saw this bull, and it was just like, saw like the glistening of the horns way out. And I believe we saw the bull the day before and called to it. And I think that's what happened. And on day one, and called and saw this like just shimmer of the horns in this bull, but you can't tell how big they are from that far away. At least we couldn't. It was our first moose hunt. And
Right.
then the next day we called again right in the evening and first saw that bull, and I mean, he came in on a string. Like, it was the quintessential moose hunt that you would really want, that I decided to pass on,
Hmm.
which is like hard to think about, but we got that experience. Like, we called this bull in from super far away. I think we had him at like 600 yards, and it was like right on the riverbank where I could have killed the thing, walked down, and probably snuck in and shot him at 100 yards or less right on the riverbank and loaded him up and gone.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a
Well,
really, really hard call.
loaded him up and gone, but then you still got to pack him for the whole rest of, for whatever, 8 more
Yeah,
days of the trip and 25 miles down the river or whatever you're supposed to go, right? Or would have you stayed at the lake at that
right.
point?
No, we had to leave at that point. I mean, we could have paid an extra $3,000, I think, for someone maybe to come in and fly it out, but that was not guaranteed.
Yeah.
So really had to have that in your head of like, is this something that we want to deal with for the full 8 days? Derek was incapacitated at that point, couldn't have pack meat,
Right.
couldn't help row or paddle or anything. So decided to pass at that stage, and it stung. I was pretty concerned. I was like, well, that might have been my only chance at all of us killing a bull. I mean,
Yeah.
that was the hardest part, is like, did I screw Brian over as well of his opportunity to shoot a bull? That was definitely in the back of my mind of like, well, was that our one shot? I don't know. I have no idea. We'll find out.
Right.
So that day went by, and then, man, the migration turned on, and it was something special for caribou. I mean, they were just pouring in past us on multiple migration routes. It was so overwhelming to just be glassing bulls and cow groups. And what was the most remarkable about it was just like the more time that went on, the bigger the bulls got.
Hi, everybody. Mike again. As I said at the top, this is going to be a 2-part episode, so we're going to end today's podcast there. But I really hope that you'll come back for part 2. Joe concludes the story of his Alaska hunt, and then this episode, Joe's story really takes a turn. And I just so hope that you'll come back and join us for that part. I would also like to say that this is coming out as Robert, GT, Poppy, and I make our way to Norway. So if you're listening to this on the day that it dropped, we are in Iceland, and we will be making lots more content for the Outdoor Rules podcast while we're there. So I hope you'll keep listening and keep following our stories. As always, you can find us on our website, www.outdoorrules.com, on Instagram @OutdoorRules. Of course, we're also on Facebook, and we would always love to hear from you by email, outdoorrules@gmail.com. All right, thanks again, and hope you come back next week.
Hunting and fishing, the great outdoors, mixing history, laughter, love, and folklore, creating memories with family and friends. These are the trophies that matter in the end. Outdoor Rules.